When Mara's skin started rotting before the entire pack, everyone screamed she was cursed. Everyone except the Alpha King, who stepped forward like he'd been waiting for this moment. He stared into the green mist eating her alive and whispered that her ugliness wasn't a curse, but a signal. A signal for what? Before the story continues, tell me where you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey travels. And make sure you subscribe. Mara was left alone for years, but your support means she won't be forgotten again. All set. Let's begin. The moon sees what others cannot. The old healer had told Mara once, tracing a blessing across her forehead. It reveals the truth where shadows lie. But the moon had stopped looking at her 3 years ago. Now, only shadows remained, clinging to her skin like funeral shrouds, pulsing with sickly green light that marked her as something cursed, something wrong, something that should not exist. There had been a time when Mara Thornbrook walked through Silverfen Village with her head held high. When her father's hand rested warm on her shoulder during pack gatherings, when wolves bowed their heads in respectful greeting, when the elders whispered that she carried moonlight in her veins. Prophetic child, they had called her. Born under the wolf's moon. Zaria had watched it all with a smile that never reached her eyes. Mara's stepmother had been beautiful once, devastatingly so, but time had begun stealing what magic could not preserve. And every compliment Mara received, every admiring glance, every whispered blessing had festered in Zaria's heart like poison in a wound. The night father died, fell from the eastern tower. They said, though Mara never believed it, everything changed. She woke to fire beneath her skin, to something twisting inside her bones, reshaping her from the inside out. When she stumbled to the mirror, the girl staring back was a stranger. Gray, mottled skin stretched too tight over her face. Her hair hung in colorless, brittle strands. Worst of all was the aura, a ghostly green mist that clung to her like decay itself, radiating a wrongness that made even the bravest wolves recoil. Zaria had appeared in her doorway, face carefully arranged in false concern. "Oh, my dear child," she had crooned. "The darkness has finally shown itself. I always knew there was something off about you." The lie spread faster than wildfire. Within a week, Mara became the rot-touched girl, the cursed one, the bringer of blight. Children sang cruel rhymes when she passed. Green mist girl with hollow eyes. Wherever she walks, something dies. Villagers clutched iron charms. Wolves, creatures who should have sensed her true soul, snarled and snapped, their instincts corrupted by whatever dark magic poisoned her aura. She retreated to the ruins behind Silverfen Keep, a forgotten groundskeeper's cottage where only wind spirits dared visit. But Mara refused to break. She foraged, she mended, she survived through wit and stubborn resilience, trading herbs and repairs for the scraps of life. Today, she needed bread. The marketplace hummed with nervous energy as Mara approached the baker's stall, hood drawn low over her face. She'd saved 4 coppers, enough for a half-loaf that might last 3 days if she was careful. "I'll take the rye bread," she said quietly, sliding the coins across the weathered wood. The baker's wife glanced up, then froze. Her hand flew to the protective charm at her throat.
"No."
"No, I'll not serve you. Your cursed touch will spoil my entire stock." "Please, I haven't. Get away from here." A woman's scream tore through the air. Near the livestock pens, a crowd gathered around a coop of slaughtered chickens, their bodies twisted at unnatural angles, surrounded by a faint green shimmer, the same sickly light that marked Mara's curse. "It's her," someone shouted. "The rot-touched girl brought this." Henley, once father's friend, once kind, pointed at Mara with shaking rage. "My brother can't control his shift anymore. He's chained in our cellar, howling at phantoms. And now this corruption bears her mark." "I didn't." Mara backed away, but rough hands seized her arms. Iron shackles snapped around her wrists, burning cold against her cursed skin. The constable's face was stone beneath his wolf-crested helm. "Mara Thornbrook, you stand accused of witchcraft and corruption of pack blood. You will face judgment before Alpha King Selim Stormfang." Terror clawed up her throat. "Please, I didn't do anything. I swear." "They all say that," the constable muttered, yanking her forward. Rain began to fall as thunder rolled across the sky. Mara stumbled through mud and jeers, dragged toward the towering silhouette of Silverfen Keep. Lightning illuminated the ancient fortress where the Alpha King waited, the war-scarred ruler known for showing traitors no mercy. She had heard the stories. Selim Stormfang did not forgive, did not show weakness, did not let witches live. As the storm intensified above her, as the crowd's hatred crashed over her like waves, Mara felt the last ember of hope dying in her chest. No one would save her. No one ever did. The journey to Silverfen Keep took less than an hour, but it felt like drowning in slow motion. They dragged Mara through the forest path, iron chains rattling with each stumbling step. Rain hammered down through the canopy, turning the ground to mud that sucked at her worn boots. Through the sheets of water, she caught glimpses of wolves, massive, silent shapes watching from between the trees. Their eyes glowed amber and gold in the darkness, tracking her movement with predatory focus. None moved to help. None howled in protest. They watched the cursed girl pass, and they waited. The constable jerked her forward when she slipped, showing no mercy. "Keep moving. The Alpha King doesn't wait for witches." Silverfen Keep rose before them like a wounded beast, ancient stone walls scarred by centuries of war, towers clawing at the storm-dark sky. Lightning split the clouds, illuminating the shattered courtyard where red roses lay scattered across cracked stone, their petals wilting in the rain. It looked exactly like a place where people went to die. The High Council had assembled beneath the covered colonnade, their faces grim and righteous. Mara recognized Lord Fenric, Elder Morgessa, Commander Vask, all wolves who once smiled at her, who once called her blessed. Now they looked at her like something that needed to be put down. And standing among them, draped in silver silk that made her look ethereal and innocent, was Zaria. Her stepmother's face was arranged in perfect concern, but when their eyes met, Zaria's smile was knife-sharp and triumphant. "Bring her forward," a voice commanded, deep, resonant, carrying the weight of absolute authority. The crowd parted. Alpha King Selim Stormfang emerged from the shadows like a storm given flesh. He was massive, easily a head taller than any wolf present, his body encased in dark armor marked with the sigil of the Moonfang. Scars traced his jawline and disappeared beneath his collar, evidence of battles survived, enemies conquered. His eyes burned molten gold, the wolf barely contained beneath human skin. He radiated danger the way fire radiated heat. The constable shoved Mara forward. She fell to her knees on the wet stone, chains clinking. Lightning flashed overhead, throwing her cursed form into stark relief. The gray skin, the hollow eyes, the green mist pulsing around her like a heartbeat of decay. Selim circled her slowly, each footstep deliberate. Predator assessing prey. His presence was suffocating, overwhelming, the kind of power that made instinct scream to submit or flee. But he didn't look disgusted. He looked curious. "This is the girl?" His voice was quieter now, controlled. "The one accused of spreading corruption?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Elder Morgessa said. "The evidence is clear. Wherever she goes, the madness follows." Silence. Selim crouched before Mara, studying the green aura clinging to her skin. His nostrils flared. "This curse." His eyes narrowed. "It carries the same signature, the same magic corrupting my wolves." The courtyard went deathly still. Zaria stepped forward, voice honeyed with false concern. "Your Majesty, if she carries the corruption, then surely she must be its source. For the safety of the Dominion, she should be." I said silence. Selim didn't look at Zarya, but his tone could have frozen fire. You'll speak when I permit it, sorceress. Zarya's smile faltered. The Alpha King returned his attention to Mara. Tell me the truth, girl. Did you cast this curse on yourself? No, Mara whispered, voice raw. I woke up like this 3 years ago. After my father died. I don't know how to cast anything. He studied her with those burning gold eyes, searching for lies. But someone cursed you. It wasn't a question. Thunder rolled overhead as Selim rose to his full height. I'll make you an offer, Mara Thornbrook. Aid me in tracking the source of this corruption. Help me understand the magic poisoning my wolves, and I will do everything in my power to free you from this curse. Mara's breath caught. Freedom. The word felt foreign, impossible, like sunlight in a place that had known only darkness for years. Why, she managed. Why would you help me? Because you're not the villain in this story, Selim said quietly, his voice carrying beneath the storm. You're the clue. Mara looked at her shackled hands, at the green mist swirling around her wrists, at the courtyard full of wolves who wanted her dead. She thought of 3 years in ruins, 3 years of whispers and stones and starvation. 3 years of surviving when everyone expected her to break. She lifted her chin and met the Alpha King's gaze. I accept. If your heart hurts for Mara right now, don't scroll. Don't click away. Subscribe so her voice is never silenced again, unlike the entire village that turned their backs on her. Let's continue. Selim's warriors didn't bother hiding their hostility. As the Alpha King led Mara through the keep's stone corridors, armored wolves lined the walls, their hands resting on sword hilts, their eyes tracking her every movement with predatory suspicion. She felt their judgment like a physical weight. This cursed thing walking beside their king, this rot-touched girl who might doom them all. Commander Vask stepped forward, blocking their path. Your Majesty, with respect, bringing her deeper into the keep is a decision I've made, Selim said without breaking stride. Stand down, Commander. Vask's jaw tightened, but he obeyed. They descended into a quieter wing of the fortress, away from the council's prying eyes. Selim gestured Mara into a small chamber lit by oil lamps, sparse but clean, with a narrow bed, a wash basin, and a window overlooking the forest. After 3 years in ruins, it looked like luxury. You'll stay here, Selim said. Guards will be posted outside, but they're for your protection as much as containment. He paused. Not everyone shares my open-mindedness about your innocence. Mara nodded, still unable to believe she was alive. That she wasn't in a dungeon. That someone, especially him, had chosen to listen. Selim moved closer, his presence filling the small space. Let me see your hands. She extended her shackled wrists. He unlocked the iron cuffs with surprising gentleness, and Mara gasped as blood rushed back into her fingers. The green mist swirled more freely now, and Selim studied it with intense focus, tilting her hands toward the lamplight. These patterns, he murmured, tracing the air above her skin where faint runes seemed to pulse within the curse. This isn't simple dark magic. These are binding runes, ancient ones. Whoever cast this had knowledge that predates most modern sorcery. Zarya, Mara whispered. It had to be her. Perhaps. Selim's eyes narrowed. But this magic is older than she appears capable of wielding alone. He stepped back, and some of the intensity faded from his expression. For the first time, Mara saw exhaustion there, the weight of a king watching his kingdom crumble. The plague began 8 months ago. Slowly at first. A wolf here, a wolf there, losing control of their shifts. We thought it was illness, genetic weakness. But then it accelerated. His voice roughened. Entire families torn apart. Fathers attacking their children. Mates turning on each other. The wolves who survive can't shift back. They're trapped between forms, minds fractured, howling at things only they can see. Mara's chest tightened with horror. How many? 43 dead. 67 still suffering. Selim met her eyes. And until tonight, we had no leads. No pattern. Nothing but bodies and madness. She thought back to those final months before the curse. Zaria disappearing for hours into the eastern wing. Strange books spread across her table. Animals found dead near their home with no obvious cause. And Father's questions, his growing suspicion. The arguments Mara had overheard through closed doors. Then his fall. She was studying something, Mara said quietly. Before Father died, I saw books with symbols I didn't recognize. And there were animals, birds, rabbits, found near our cottage. Withered, like something drained them. Selim's expression darkened. She was practicing. A commotion outside interrupted them. The door burst open, and a young warrior stumbled in, cradling something small and snarling. Your Majesty, we found another one in the lower village. Just a pup, but it's... The wolf pup in his arms couldn't have been more than 6 months old, but its eyes glowed with sickly green light, the exact shade of Mara's curse. It snapped and writhed, foam flecking its muzzle, its body caught in a half-shift that looked agonizing. Mara's stomach dropped. Selim took the pup carefully, his hands glowing faintly with alpha energy to calm it. He held it close to Mara, and the green aura around her pulsed in response, like a heartbeat syncing with another. Gods, Selim breathed. It's connected. Your curse is being used as a conduit to spread the corruption. Guilt crashed over Mara like a wave. I'm hurting them. Even now, I'm...
No.
Selim's voice was firm. You're not the cause. You're the victim being weaponized. There's a difference. But it didn't feel different. Not when she could see the agony in that pup's glowing eyes. Selim handed the pup to the warrior with quiet instructions, then crossed to a locked chest near the window. He withdrew something wrapped in black cloth, a pendant of silver and moonstone, carved with protective runes. This belonged to my mother, he said, fastening it around Mara's neck. It won't break the curse, but it should stabilize it. Keep the energy from being siphoned. The moment the pendant settled against her skin, warmth flooded through Mara's body. Real warmth, not the cold emptiness she'd known for 3 years. The green mist dimmed slightly, and for the first time since the curse took hold, she felt almost human. Tears stung her eyes. Selim's expression softened. Rest tonight. Tomorrow, we begin hunting whoever did this to you. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. And Mara, you're not alone anymore. Dawn broke gray and cold over Silverfen Keep as Selim's tracking party assembled in the courtyard. 6 elite warriors, hardened by countless battles, stood beside their horses, and none looked pleased to see Mara approaching. Absolutely not, Commander Vask said flatly. Your Majesty, bringing the rot-touched girl into corrupted territory is madness. Then it's fortunate I'm the one making decisions, Commander. Selim's tone brooked no argument. He handed Mara the reins of a sturdy mare. She comes. That's final. The warriors exchanged dark glances, but mounted without further protest. As they rode through the gates, Mara felt their resentment like knives against her back. The forest swallowed them within an hour. These weren't the healthy woods Mara remembered from childhood. The trees here were twisted, their bark blackened, and weeping sap that smelled of rot. Leaves hung limp and colorless. Worst of all were the sounds, distant howling that held no wolf song, only fractured agony. Mara pulled her cloak tighter, the protective pendant warm against her chest. By midday, they found their first casualty. A young warrior from the border patrol lay convulsing beside the trail, eyes rolling white, body locked in a half-shift that looked like torture. His packmates knelt helplessly beside him. There's nothing we can do, one said grimly. The madness has him. Mara dismounted before thinking, moving toward the stricken wolf. Wait, let me see him. Don't touch him, Vask barked. But Mara was already examining the corruption spreading through the warrior's veins, green lines spiderwebbing beneath his skin. She recognized the pattern from the animals she'd found near her cottage years ago. Nightshade extract mixed with iron powder, she murmured. It's amplifying the curse's hold. She reached into her satchel, pulling out dried yarrow and silverweed. If I can make a poultice. She's going to poison him, someone muttered. Let her work. Selim's command silenced all objections. Mara's hands moved with practiced efficiency, grinding herbs and mixing them with water from her canteen. She pressed the poultice against the worst corruption points, whispering a prayer her mother once taught her. The green lines receded slightly, and the warrior's convulsions eased. Not cured, but stabilized. Selim studied her with newfound respect. Where did you learn that? My mother was a healer, Mara said quietly, before she died. Something shifted in his expression. Understanding, perhaps. Shared loss. They rode deeper into the wildlands, and Mara found herself riding closer to Selim, their earlier tension giving way to something almost comfortable. He asked about her mother's remedies. She asked about his childhood. Small exchanges that felt significant in the cursed silence of the forest. Then they found the symbols. Massive runes carved into ancient oak trees, pulsing with the same sickly energy as Mara's curse. They formed a pattern, a ritual boundary. Don't touch them, Selim warned. But Mara was already reaching out, compelled by recognition she couldn't explain. Her fingers brushed the nearest symbol and agony exploded through her body. The curse flared violently, green light erupting from her skin as something tried to pull her essence through the connection. She heard screaming, realized dimly it was her own voice. Strong arms caught her as her legs gave out. Selim held her against his chest, his alpha energy flooding through her, severing the connection. Breathe, he commanded. Stay with me. If you're still watching, you're one of the few who truly care about what happens to her. Subscribe. Don't be like the ones who left her to suffer alone for 3 years. Mara gasped, clinging to consciousness. I'm sorry, I didn't. Never touch those again. His voice was raw with something that sounded like fear. Do you understand? She nodded weakly. Vask called from ahead, voice tight. Your Majesty, you need to see this. Beyond the treeline lay a clearing. 12 bodies, an entire border pack, arranged in a perfect circle. Their throats slit, blood pooling into channels that formed a symbol Mara had seen in Zaria's forbidden books. At the center, carved into the earth in letters 2 feet high. The Umbral Court remembers. They found the survivor an hour later, half buried beneath the corpses of his packmates. Commander Vask dragged the man into the fading light. A border scout, barely breathing, his body racked with corruption but his eyes still lucid. Selim knelt beside him, cradling the dying wolf's head with surprising gentleness. Who did this? The Alpha King asked quietly. Give me a name. The scout's mouth worked soundlessly, blood flecking his lips. Then, with his final breath, Thornbrook, the sorceress, she commands that. He went still. Mara felt the blood drain from her face. Every warrior turned to stare at her, hands moving toward weapons. Not her, Selim said sharply, though his expression had gone dark. Her stepmother. But Mara barely heard him. She was drowning in memory, Zaria sitting beside her when she was 10, teaching her to make flowers bloom with whispered words. Magic is in your blood, darling. Let me show you how beautiful it can be. All those innocent lessons while Zaria studied texts written in languages that made Mara's head ache. The locked eastern wing. The animals that died. Father's suspicion. Everything led back to her. The corruption isn't random, Selim said, rising. Someone's controlling it, directing it. His golden eyes found Mara's. Using you as the anchor point. Vask pointed to tracks leading east. There's a structure half a mile ahead. Old witching den, judging by the markers. They approached cautiously, weapons drawn. The building was crumbling stone half swallowed by corrupted vines, but the door stood open like a waiting mouth. Inside, oil lamps still burned with green flame, illuminating a workspace that made Mara's stomach turn, because she recognized everything. Her childhood doll sat on a shelf, its cloth face faded. Her mother's silver hairbrush. The blanket from her bedroom, the one with embroidered moons along the border. Personal items that had gone missing over the years, things she'd assumed were lost or thrown away after the curse. Gods, Selim breathed beside her. On the central table lay ritual implements arranged with meticulous care. Vials of dark liquid, binding runes carved into wood. And at the center, a collection of glass bottles filled with blood, dried and brown, but unmistakably hers. Mara remembered every time Zarya had accidentally cut her while cooking, every scraped knee tended, with excessive fussing. She'd been harvesting Mara's blood for years. She used you, Selim said, his voice rough with fury. Your blood, your essence, your connection to lunar magic, she's been siphoning it to power these spells. Mara felt violated in a way the curse never accomplished. I thought she cared about me. At first, before Father died, I thought. A roar shattered the moment. Something massive crashed through the eastern wall, a wolf, but twisted beyond recognition. 3 times normal size, its body a grotesque fusion of flesh and corrupted magic, eyes blazing with mindless green fire. Saliva dripped from jaws that could crush stone. The warriors scattered. Selim's sword rang as he drew it, his body already beginning to shift. Get back. But the creature moved with terrifying speed, lunging for Mara specifically, drawn to the curse it recognized, the connection it craved. Mara stumbled backward, panic flooding her veins. The pendant at her throat flared hot. Something ancient stirred inside her chest, something that had been sleeping, waiting, buried beneath 3 years of rot and despair. The creature's claws were inches from her face when instinct took over. Light exploded from Mara's outstretched hands, not green like the curse, but brilliant silver white, pure as moonlight on snow. The creature shrieked, thrown backward as if struck by a battering ram. The corrupted magic coating its body peeled away, burning like paper in flame. The light faded. Mara collapsed to her knees, gasping. In the ringing silence, every warrior stared at her with shock and something like fear. But Selim's expression held only wonder. You have lunar magic, he said softly. True lunar magic. That's what she was afraid of. I don't understand. Mara stared at her trembling hands, still tingling with residual power. I've never been able to do anything like that. Ever. Selim circled the destroyed creature, studying the way the corruption had burned away. Lunar magic is hereditary. It runs through bloodlines connected to the first wolves, the original packs blessed by the moon goddess herself. He looked at her intently. Your mother, what do you remember about her? She was a healer. Kind. She taught me about herbs and remedies. Mara's voice wavered. Nothing about magic like this. Perhaps she kept secrets to protect you. Selim wiped his blade clean. We need answers. There's a place 2 hours north, the Moon Shrine. If the prophecy the Umbral Court fears truly involves you, we'll find evidence there. They rode hard through the darkening forest, leaving the corrupted den behind. Mara's mind churned with questions she'd never thought to ask. Who had her mother really been? Why had Zarya chosen her specifically? The Moon Shrine emerged from the trees like a ghost, ancient pillars of white stone reaching toward the sky, half collapsed but still magnificent. Moonlight poured through gaps in the ruined ceiling, illuminating murals that covered every surface. Mara's breath caught. The central mural depicted a young woman with luminous skin, surrounded by writhing green mist that wrapped around her like chains. But from her outstretched hands blazed silver light, pure and devastating. At her feet knelt a massive wolf bearing a crown, his head bowed in reverence or devotion. The woman wore Mara's face. "This can't be," she whispered. "The prophecy of the Lunar Queen." A cracked voice spoke from the shadows. An elderly she-wolf emerged, her eyes milky with blindness, yet she moved with certainty. "I've tended this shrine for 60 years, waiting for the cursed one to arrive." "You knew I was coming?" Mara asked. The moon whispers many things to those who listen. The seer's gnarled fingers reached out, touching Mara's cursed cheek with surprising gentleness. A girl born under the wolf's moon, bearing lunar magic powerful enough to choose the next Alpha Queen. She will be cursed, broken, made monstrous, but she will rise. And in rising, she will save the Dominion from the darkness that seeks to consume it. Zaria's face flashed through Mara's mind. She cursed me to stop this, to make sure no Alpha would ever look at me, never choose me. To ensure the prophecy could never be fulfilled, Selim finished, his jaw tight. And to seize power for herself and the Umbral Court, the seer's expression grew solemn. But the prophecy speaks of one condition that must be met. Only a freely given vow from a true Alpha can break the curse that binds you. Not a vow of obligation or duty, but one given from the heart, without coercion, without expectation of gain. A choice made in pure faith. Mara felt something break inside her chest. Her laugh came out bitter, broken. "Then I'll die cursed. What Alpha would ever choose to vow themselves to someone like me? I'm hideous, I'm feared, I bring nothing but..." She stopped, unable to continue. When she dared glance at Selim, she expected pity, maybe discomfort. Instead, his golden eyes burned with an emotion so intense it made her heart stutter. His mouth opened as if he might speak. Hoofbeats thundered outside. A warrior burst through the shrine entrance, armor splattered with mud, face pale with urgency. "Your Majesty!" Emergency dispatch from Silverfen Keep. Selim's demeanor shifted instantly. "Report. The sorceress Zaria Thornbrook has launched a full assault on the keep. She's commanding an army of corrupted wolves, hundreds of them. Commander Vask says they're holding the walls, but they're outnumbered 3-1. Maybe worse." Ice flooded Mara's veins. "She's doing this because of me. Because you helped me instead of killing me." "She's doing this," Selim interrupted, his hand suddenly covering hers, "because she's terrified of what you'll become, of what you already are." His touch was warm, solid, real. The first genuine comfort she'd felt in 3 years. "How long can they hold?" Selim asked the warrior. 2 days. Maybe 3 if reinforcements reach them in time. "Then we ride now." Selim's voice rang with command. "Full speed, no stops. If Zaria wants a war, she'll face the Alpha King himself." As they mounted and prepared to race back, Mara felt the prophecy weighing on her like chains far heavier than any curse. A freely given vow from a true Alpha. She glanced at Selim, at the king who had defended her, protected her, seen past her monstrous exterior when no one else would. But why would he ever vow himself to her? Why would anyone? They arrived at dawn to find Silverfen Keep burning. Smoke twisted into the gray sky as corrupted wolves swarmed the walls like a plague of locusts. Their howls echoed with madness, green light blazing from their eyes as they tore at stone and flesh alike. Bodies littered the courtyard, defenders and corrupted both, tangled in death. "Gods," Commander Vask breathed. "She's turned half the border packs." Selim's jaw set like iron. "We break through. Now." They charged into chaos. Mara clung to her horse as wolves lunged from all sides, but Selim's warriors cut through them with brutal efficiency. Magic crackled in the air, making her curse flare painfully against her skin. Then she heard the voice that haunted her nightmares. "My dear, sweet Mara." Zaria stood on the crumbling balcony overlooking the courtyard, radiant in emerald silk, her beauty unmarred by age or corruption. Green fire danced between her fingers, and her smile was a blade. Did you really think you could run from me? That this broken king could save you? Zaria. Mara's voice cracked with fury and grief. Stop this. Stop. Zaria laughed, the sound like breaking glass. Why would I stop when I'm finally claiming what should have been mine? The prophecy, the power, the throne, all of it would have been mine if not for you. A mistake. An accident of birth that threatened everything. Corrupted vines erupted from the ground, wrapping around Mara's legs, dragging her from her horse. She screamed as they pulled her toward the balcony, toward Zaria's waiting hands. Selim's roar shook the courtyard. His body exploded into a partial shift, massive, powerful, more wolf than man, as he threw himself between Mara and the attacking corrupted wolves. 5 at once, their jaws snapping, claws raking his armor. He fought like a storm incarnate, but even he couldn't reach Mara through the magical barrier. Your father knew, Zaria called down, her voice sweet as poison. He discovered what I was doing. The blood I'd been taking from you. The spells I'd been weaving. So I had to silence him. Her smile widened. It was so easy. One push from the tower. One broken neck. And no one suspected the grieving widow. The world tilted beneath Mara's feet. You murdered him. I freed myself from his self-righteous judgment. Zaria's hands blazed brighter. And now I'll free myself from you. Mara felt her resolve crumbling, 3 years of pain and isolation crushing down on her chest. She was going to die cursed, unloved, exactly as Zaria had planned. Mara. Selim's voice cut through the chaos. Blood streaked his face, but his golden eyes burned with absolute certainty. You are not her mistake. You hear me? You are the prophecy. The vines yanked harder. Mara clawed at the ground as Selim fought his way toward her, desperation raw in every movement. They crashed through the gates into the shattered courtyard where red roses lay dying in the rain. Thunder rolled overhead. Lightning split the sky. Zaria descended from the balcony on a staircase of living vines, her hands pulsing with terrible power. It ends here, child, as it should have ended 3 years ago. Green fire exploded from her palms, swallowing Mara whole. Pain consumed everything. The green fire wrapped around Mara like chains of agony, burning without heat, suffocating without smoke. She felt Zaria's magic pulling at her essence, trying to drag her back into darkness, back into nothingness. You were always mine. Zaria's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. A tool. A vessel. Nothing more. Mara collapsed to her knees on the rain-soaked stone, the curse flaring so violently she couldn't breathe. Red roses wilted around her, their petals turning to ash. Thunder crashed overhead as lightning split the sky in jagged silver scars. Through the green haze, she saw Selim fighting toward her. Massive in his partial shift, blood streaming from a dozen wounds, but his eyes blazed with absolute determination. Mara. He dropped to one knee beside her, his presence cutting through the suffocating magic. Rain poured down his scarred face as he reached into his armor and withdrew the silver circlet, the wolf skull crown that gleamed like captured moonlight. No! Zaria shrieked from the balcony, green fire erupting from her hands. She is mine. Necrotic flames spiraled toward them, death given form. Selim threw himself over Mara, taking the blast across his back. His roar of pain shook the courtyard, but he didn't move, didn't flinch. His body shielded hers as if nothing else mattered. Selim, Mara gasped. You'll die. Then I die protecting you. His voice was raw, fierce, absolute. He lifted the circlet with trembling hands, holding it between them like an offering. I don't care about prophecies or politics or what anyone else thinks. Lightning struck the tower behind them. His golden eyes locked with hers, and in them, Mara saw everything she'd thought impossible. Belief. Faith. Something that looked terrifyingly like love. I vow, Selim said, his voice rising above the storm, to protect you, to fight beside you, to stand with you against every darkness that threatens. His hands were steady now, unwavering. I vow to choose you, Mara Thornbrook, not because of prophecy, not because of duty, but because I see you, the real you, and I choose you freely. If this moment hit you right in the heart, subscribe. Don't let this love, this sacrifice, this transformation be witnessed by you alone. Be part of Mara's journey. She deserves at least that after everything she endured. The words hit like thunder. Magic detonated from the circlet, pure silver light that exploded outward in a shockwave of lunar power. The green fire shattered like glass. The curse writhed and screamed as ancient bindings snapped one by one, 3 years of rot and corruption burning away in seconds. Mara screamed as her body transformed. The gray skin brightened to luminous pearl. Her brittle hair flowed like nightfall, shimmering with captured starlight. Her sunken eyes blazed silver white, radiant as twin moons. The green mist evaporated, replaced by an aura of pure moonlight that made even the corrupted wolves recoil in instinctive reverence. She rose, no longer the cursed girl, but something magnificent and terrible. The Luna Queen. The corruption throughout the keep collapsed like puppet strings cut. Corrupted wolves collapsed, the madness draining from their eyes. The umbral magic feeding on her essence had nothing left to consume. On the balcony, Zaria shrieked as her own spell backfired, green fire consuming her from within, the magic she'd stolen and twisted finally devouring its master. She reached toward Mara one last time, but the vines crumbled to dust and she fell, swallowed by the darkness she'd embraced. Silence crashed over the courtyard. Mara stood trembling in the rain, staring at her restored hands, feeling warmth for the first time in 3 years. Real warmth. Human warmth. Selim rose slowly, his partial shift fading, leaving him bloodied but alive. He looked at her with something like wonder, like he was seeing the sun after years of darkness. "You were never the monster," he whispered, reaching out to touch her cheek with infinite gentleness. "You were the prophecy." And when Mara finally smiled, truly smiled, it was like the moon breaking through storm clouds. She was free. Mara woke to sunlight. Real sunlight, warm and golden, streaming through tall windows she didn't recognize. The bed beneath her was soft, too soft, and for a panicked moment she thought it was all a dream. That she'd wake cursed again, alone in the ruins. Then she saw her hands. Pearl-pale skin, no trace of rot or green mist. Real. It was real. The door opened quietly. Selim entered, his wounds bandaged, but his golden eyes bright. When he saw her awake, relief flooded his features. "You've been sleeping for 2 days. The healers said your body needed time to recover from the transformation." Mara sat up slowly, still marveling at the absence of pain. The keep? Secured. The corrupted wolves are being treated. Most are recovering now that the source is gone. Selim moved closer, then did something that stole her breath. He knelt, not as a king addressing a subject, but as an equal, offering himself with open hands. "Mara Thornbrook," he said quietly, "you fulfilled a prophecy and saved this dominion. But I'm not asking you to stand beside me because of destiny or ancient predictions." His voice roughened with emotion. "I'm asking because when I look at you, I see home. Will you be my Luna? Not because you have to, but because you want it." Tears blurred her vision. 3 years of being unwanted, unloved, cast aside, and now this. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." The following weeks transformed everything. The packs came slowly at first, suspicious and wary, but Mara's kindness won them over. She healed their wounded, counseled their young, and when she stood beside Selim at council meetings, her lunar magic glowed with undeniable authority. Gratitude became admiration. Admiration became loyalty. One morning, Mara made the journey to her father's grave, a simple stone marker in the Thornbrook family plot. She knelt in the grass, fingers tracing his name. "I'm sorry it took so long," she whispered. "But she's gone now, and I'm going to make you proud." The wind whispered through the trees like an answered prayer. At the moon shrine, the blind seer smiled as Mara and Selim visited one final time. "A Luna born from shadow will lead the Dominion into a new era," she said, her voice carrying the weight of prophecy fulfilled. "The darkness tried to destroy you, child. Instead, it forged you into something unbreakable." That evening, Mara and Selim stood together on the balcony of Silverfen Keep, overlooking the courtyard where wolves celebrated below, bonfires blazing, songs rising into the night. His hand found hers, warm and steady. "Are you ready for this?" Selim asked softly. "Being Luna won't be easy. There will be challenges, threats." "I survived 3 years as a monster," Mara said, lifting her chin. "I think I can handle being a queen." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that made him look young. "Then we'll handle it together." Below them, the pack howled in celebration, not in madness, but in joy. And as the moon rose full and bright overhead, casting silver light across the keep, Mara felt something she'd thought lost forever. She felt worthy. Once cursed, once forgotten, Mara Thornbrook rose with the moon, and the world would never again mistake her worth. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe. One click goes a long way for the channel. I post more powerful werewolf and romance stories every single day. Your support keeps these stories alive.